God, Hannah, I'm sorry, baby. Sorry, doll baby. Okay, so like, this morning, I had this funny lucid dream. Virtual reality lucid dream. I'm sorry, baby. I hit my cat in the head with my elbow. Baby, I'm sorry. I've done stuff like that before. Like, I've hit you in the knee. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. You okay, honey? It didn't hurt my elbow, but did I hurt your little head? You got a little bitty head. Yeah, like sometimes I'll kick him in the knee because I'll cross my legs on the futon couch, and sometimes I'll accidentally, that's why I'll tell him like to move over so I don't accidentally kick them, with my knee or whatever. But this time I got Hannah with my elbow. Oh, sorry, babies. And your little head. Are you okay, doll baby? And I gotta get those fleas off. I gotta pick fleas off of them every 24 hours. Well, actually, every 12 hours. And you only get them on your head. That's the only place you get them. Damn, girl, I'm sorry. Okay? She's okay. I think cats have hard heads. Don't you? Okay, so anyway, I had like 3 virtual reality lucid dreams lately. And this morning, yeah, it was kind of hilarious. I guess I'll talk about it real quick. But anyway, so basically, and I know who the aliens were mocking off of. This one tall doctor, I forgot his name, but he used to come in to the hospital room and see this alcoholic friend that I knew. And she actually almost died one time in the hospital because she got that blood infection or whatever. But yeah, so in the scenario, because the man was similar to him, the alien mocked him. And anyway, but it's like I was I was outside walking along like to I don't know where I was walking to. It just seemed like I was going to a shopping center or something. And anyway, I met up with this guy, this older man, and he was, what was he doing? He was well, I don't know, but he wasn't like on the uppity up. He basically was with a bunch of people to try to get, a lot of people on mental drugs and into mental institutions. That was his agenda, and all the other men's agenda that he, was involved with or whatever. So anyway, but anyway, it's like, it seemed like we somehow met up when I was walking outside to like some kind of building or shopping center or something. And then I met up with this tall man, and like I say, the alien mocked, because that's who that guy was similar to, that one doctor from a long time ago, from back in 2012. So anyway, yeah, so because the guy looks similar to him in the scenario. And basically he was kind of like a psychiatrist or a psychologist. But anyway, it was a very long lucid dream, and somehow I ended up at the facility and was like checking it out and everything. And I just somehow knew that I really wasn't, supposed to be there. So so anyway, it seemed like I was in the facility for a long time. And like I say, I didn't really know at first that, that he was trying to get me to like stay in that facility like forever, because him and some other guys, that's what their agenda was just to try to get people to stay forever in mental institutions and give them like, mental drugs and stuff. And but anyway, it went on for a long time. And I remember sitting there like at a table, and he was like, he was trying to, he was trying to, I don't know, like ask me questions or something to see if I I don't know, to see, you know, I guess he was trying to give me a test to see if I was mental or something. I don't know, but anyway, it was just a very long lucid dream. But there was parts of it that was like totally virtual reality. And, well, the whole part was virtual reality. The whole dream was virtual reality, but it was like lucid dreaming. The whole experience was virtual reality. And, except it was under, you know, lucid dream feeling, lucid dreamy kind of state. And, so anyway, it's so weird. There's some other parts too that, I don't know, I'm not going to talk about those parts, but anyway, I ended up like leaving the facility, but before I left the facility, because I knew they were trying to trap me there, like he was trying to trap me there forever. And, you know, I knew that I didn't really belong there. So anyway, before I somehow skipped out and left the facility, there was a whole bunch of stuff, like, I looked down and there's a whole bunch of stuff laying on the table. There was, like, syringes and little alcohol rubber packs. And then there was, like, a black 9-volt battery. And he was kind of like, and like I said, it was, like, all over the table. Like, syringes that were unwrapped. And little alcohol rubbing packs. And, like, a black little battery, and it was like in a package. It was a black 9-volt battery, and a bunch of other little things. And he said something like I could take what I wanted before I left the facility. Well, anyway, I picked up the battery and a couple other things, and I was gonna take that with me, you know, back home or whatever. But I was thinking I really don't want all this stuff. Yeah, as far as I remember, I looked down. I had this bag full of stuff, and you know, like syringes and alcohol wraps, and I remember thinking, I don't want all this. But when I picked up the battery, God, I can't remember what he said, but when I picked up the battery, he's like, no, you can't have the battery. That belongs here. It stays with, like, the patients and stuff. I guess, you know, for the equipment and stuff. He acted like I couldn't have the battery. So that was kind of weird. But anyway, like I say, this was just like a long, drawn-out scenario. And then at one point, I was actually back at home and everything, and I kept thinking in my head that I was like, shit, like, where am I gonna hide and stuff? Like, where am I gonna hide and stuff? Because I was afraid they were gonna come after me and get me, and, you know, and act like I belong in that facility or whatever, you know. And this was just all thoughts and stuff that, you know, I've heard, and, you know, like in other countries or whatever. What's that term? Oh yeah, that term that was kind of being thrown around in this scenario was, what was that term that English people use? Because they said that about that one guy, Miles Johnson. They said that he was, not committed. We use the term committed. Sectioned. They use the term section. And so in this whole scenario, I kept thinking of that word. I mean, that was like the whole theme, being sectioned. Except we don't say that in America. We say committed. And it took me a while to remember this lucid dream for whatever reason. That's why I was kind of slow at the beginning. Okay, so anyway, but like I said, it went on for a long, long, long time, and I was just like, I knew I didn't want to be in there. I was scared to be in there, but somehow, you know, it was easy for me to leave because they knew, you know, I didn't really belong there. But still, it was, I don't know. It's kind of like they were trying to trap people, you know. You know, they weren't on the uppity up. They were telling people things that weren't true just to get them, you know, to go to that mental ward or whatever and stay there forever, so they could. Because their agenda was to give everybody, you know, the mental drugs and shit. And you know, I don't take any kind of drugs or anything, you know, in real life or whatever. And so in the scenario, it was like I knew that they wanted to get everybody on mental drugs and, you know, get everybody into these facilities. And but anyway, so And as far as I remember, there actually was one part of the scenario where they gave me some drugs. They gave me a few pills, but I somehow, I didn't take them. I don't know, I spit them out or something, or I hid them or something, but I did not take them. And they weren't like watching me or anything, so I didn't take them. But that was one part of the scenario. And then, but the other part of the scenario where I was back home and everything, but it was like I was at my parents' house, and I used to live there, you know, a long, long time ago. So I was back home, you know, basically that's where I lived in the scenario. And I kept thinking like that they were still going to try to come after me. So I kept thinking, where am I going to hide to be safe? You know, where am I going to hide? And then there was this other weird bathroom scene again, this real skanky, big, huge bathroom with a bunch of stalls, real skanky. They're always sticking me in skanky bathrooms. And, but anyway, I don't know, that may have just been a whole separate, fast dream. I don't know. But I think it was part of the scenario. Okay, but anyway, but here's the funny part, and I'm not going to try to, like, remember. I pretty much told you every single thing. But there was another part, too, which I don't know if that was just like a separate dream either, or if that was part of the scenario. But there was actually another part where me and my sister, we were at the back of this big, huge, it was almost like a movie theater, but it wasn't a movie theater. And we were, that's where people just went to study. And but we got in the very, very back. And we sat at some tables, and we were just there to study. But I don't know where that comes in at. I don't know if that was part of the scenario or not. But anyway, okay, here's the funny thing. Somehow, okay, I went back to the facility, but like I say, I never did, you know, stay there permanently or anything. Because the end of the scenario, somehow I ended up back in the facility. And like I say, the aliens just went off. They created the scenario because they went off my thoughts, you know, and stuff that I've heard about, you know, people being sectioned, you know, crap like that. So they took that and ran with it. And that's not the first time they've created a scenario like this either, you know, like mental wards. That's not the first time. Or this isn't the first time. Okay, so, but the last part of the scenario, there was another man sitting there in the room. We were in like a room with white walls. That same room with the table where I was sitting at to begin with that man, where the aliens, they copied that doctor from a long time ago because he looks similar to that guy. And so anyway, so okay, this was the hilarious part. He was like sitting over to my right at a chair or a table. And he had a left name tag on. And the left name tag, his name tag, this was so hilarious. His left name tag said, now he didn't have a name tag on the right side of his shirt, just the left side. And so his name tag said, Tripped Mind. Tripped. And his last name was Mind. Mind. And I was looking at his name tag, and I was like, Trip Mind. I was like, that's no way that could be his name. You know, like I knew that couldn't be his real name. Nobody's gonna have a name like that. And so anyway, that was basically the end of the scenario. But this whole experience, it lasted, you know, a long time. But that part was hilarious. Like, the aliens are funny, man. Because that's hilarious to put that in there. Trip mind. Because, you know, they're sitting there doing a trip on my mind every day when they give me these experiences and everything. And then they give me a scenario, you know, about psych ward or facilities and everything. And it's just hilarious. Okay, so anyway, I'll talk about the other one I had real quick, and I actually did ask for it. I was asking them to take me to New York City and a bunch of other places where, well, apparently they picked New York City. Or they did pick New York City to take me to, me and my mom. But anyway, they've taken me to New York City many times. And that other experience back in 2014, I haven't talked about that yet, but I remember enough so I could talk about it later. But, yeah, they've taken me to New York City many times. I remember experiences 20, 30 years ago before I even knew the aliens were giving me all these experiences, I totally remember, you know, 30-40% of a lot of them. And they've been doing this all my life. I'm sure they're doing it to a lot of other people, but they just never wake up to smell the coffee. Okay, so, okay, when was it? Well, yesterday morning? Well, anyway, yeah, because it's three days ago I had this one right here. And then it was like 2 days ago, I went to New York City with my mom and me. But basically, I'll just talk about it real fast. Basically, we were walking along a campus, you know, in New York City. We were walking along a campus, college campus, and they're always sticking me on campuses. And there wasn't a lot of people, you know, at that point, there wasn't a lot of people walking around or whatever. And so I remember thinking, well, there sure isn't, you know, a bunch of people walking around, you know, to be such a big city or whatever. But anyway, so then all of a sudden, me and my mom, we hopped on a train. It was like a above ground, like a, what do you call it? A trail. What's it called? A trail ride or whatever? I forgot what it's called. Above the ground train. We hopped on that train, and then boom, we were going pretty fast, you know, 40-50 miles an hour to east. We were going east after we started, you know, walking along the campus forever. And like I say, I was in New York City. The aliens somehow just already programmed my brain to know that before they start the scenario. Now this experience I'm about to talk about, they did not tell me what town or city I was in. Okay, so anyway, so like, we hopped on, what's it called? Light rail, that's what it's called. We hopped on this train, but it was like a light rail because it was on top of the ground that just appeared in the middle of the college campus. Okay, so then we started heading east, and it's like we were going from the college campus to down, you know, not downtown, but to New York City, where all the buildings and all the people were. It was like we were going, you know, from the college campus. We got on the light rail to go to the city part, the city part. So then we ended up, we did go to the, you know, the downtown city part of New York City or whatever, where all the buildings and stuff were. And we were sitting there in a lesbian bar, like a gay bar. And this was in the afternoon, so there wasn't a lot of people, like maybe 8 people in that whole area. The bar, it was like me and my mom and 2 other guys, and I don't know who the 2 guys were. And over to my left was like the bar area where they made the drinks. And then behind me were behind me up to the wall, up against the wall, there was a table and a couple women sitting there. And as I looked around, I just knew, I was like, oh, okay, this is more of like a lesbian bar, not like, you know, a normal gay bar. It's more like a total lesbian bar. And I remember thinking in my head, like, how come there's not, you know, music being played? But then I thought to myself, in the experience, oh, probably because, you know, it's afternoon, so they don't play the music yet. But anyway, so we went there to have lunch. So me and my mom, we were sitting there having lunch and everything with these 2 other guys, and they were talking, and I just remember thinking in my head, like, why do they not have a strong New York City accent? And they seemed like nice, you know, they didn't seem rude or anything, and I thought that was a little bit odd. But yeah, it's weird. I mean, like, okay, so the aliens took me to New York City, and yet it's really weird. They have a way of somehow, like, even though you may have never really been to New York City in real life or Romania or whatever, it's so weird. They have a way of putting all that energy, you know, where it actually feels like you really are in New York City or Romania or wherever. And I've never been to Romania. And when I was in Romania, I mean, it totally felt like Romania. And when I was, the other time when I was in New York City, back in 2014, it totally felt like New York City, the whole energy. And lots of times, you know, it feels like I'm in a different dimension, etc., etc. And so anyway, that was that experience. I mean, it's just like, it's just like when I went into the eyeglass place. Oh my God, it just had this strong eyeglass. I mean, total eyeglass energy imprint I mean, even when I came home, I felt like a fucking eyeglass facility. I felt like that fucking eyeglass world. I totally felt, and I'm like, get this fucking energy off of me. You know what I'm saying? That's what I felt like. Like in real life, when I went to get my glasses. And then when I came back into my house, I felt like the whole freaking facility. Or, you know, it's just like when you go to medical office. It feels like a medical office. Okay, but anyway, so, okay, where was I at? Oh yeah, and I'll never go in there again because I just hate going into places anyway. I mean, if I can avoid them, I avoid all places pretty much. So anyway, so yeah, I don't know how they do it, or if maybe I'm just psychic, I don't know. Maybe because, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I just have that ability or if the aliens are doing something to make me feel the energy, you know what I'm saying? Or if I just automatically know how to feel the energy of a place that I've never been to before in 3D. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it was totally amazing. Like when I went to Romania, and when I went to, what's that other place? Romania, New York City, and I mean, all the other places. I mean, it totally felt like when I went to West Virginia, when they placed me in West Virginia under virtual reality, lucid dream, it felt like West Virginia, and I've never even been to West Virginia, or Romania, or New York City, and in this experience, like I say, I mean, it felt like New York City. And, but like I say, sometimes I may have some experiences where it doesn't, you know, quite feel like that. It just depends on how good they are. If they create them shitty for me or, you know, really good for me. But, yeah, so when I was sitting there at the bar and everything, I mean, it totally felt like New York City. And, when we were on the college campus, I knew we were in New York City. I couldn't remember if I actually felt like it was New York City, but it felt like a college campus. But yeah, it was mainly when we were sitting there at the bar, you know, in the middle of New York City or whatever, where all the people in the big buildings were. Like, I knew, I mean, I was in New York City. It totally felt, the whole energy felt like New York City. Okay, so anyway, but yeah, there was that one experience I had about 4 or 5 years ago to England. They took me to England, and I was walking around England or whatever. And after I woke up, I mean, oh my God, the energy like of you know, that scenario, the England energy of that scenario. And like I say, I felt like I was in England. That whole scenario, and actually I totally felt like I was in a different dimension in that scenario. And when I woke up at 10 a.m., all the way till I went out the door at 7 p.m., I totally felt like I was still in that scenario. The whole energy of being in a different dimension stayed with me, and the whole energy of being in England stayed with me. Now, in that scenario, they didn't tell me the actual town I was in. It was just England. And I have been to England before. But that's irrelevant, because they'll take me anywhere that I've never been to before in real life, and it'll still feel like, you know, Romania or whatever, and I've never been to Romania. Okay, so anyway, so this experience, my reptilian abduction to Cindy McCain's mansion via OBE-VR Lucid dream, well, it was kind of disturbing. But anyway, so like this whole scenario, all of these 3 scenarios, like I say, my lucid dreams, my OBE-VR Lucid dreams, they're the ones that just last for hours and hours and hours. They very much seem like that you're in the experience like 6, 7, 8 hours, when you're really not, of course. But it seems like that. When I have a normal, just out of body experience, and then Joel just plops me down in a virtual reality scenario or whatever. No, lots of times that does not seem like hours and hours and hours and hours, like these OBE-VR Lucid dreams. And I explain all that, the differences in that other video that I did about the differences between remote views and lucid dreams and dreams and out-of-body experiences and virtual reality experiences. I explained the differences, but like I say, some experiences are a little bit of all of the above. Okay, so in this experience, I had this acquaintance, and she was not Cindy McCain, but what the alien did was copy off of an image of her to create this person in my scenario. That's why I put it in quotes, because it was not Cindy McCain. It was, what the deal was, I watched about an hour of that eulogy or whatever on TV, and it kept showing this woman, and I kept thinking, is that the wife? Is that the wife? And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the wife. See, I don't really follow politics, but they kept showing her, you know what I'm saying? When they had that John McCain eulogy or whatever on TV last Sunday, I watched about an hour of it, or maybe it was Saturday, I can't remember. But yeah, I watched about an hour of it, and they kept showing her, Cindy McCain. But like I said, at first I was like, okay, is that, I just figured, I was thinking, is that the wife maybe? Is that the wife? And then I was thinking, yeah, I bet you that's the wife. Because they kept showing her. But at first I wasn't 100% sure because I don't really follow politics. And, I didn't know for sure. But then I thought that probably is the wife because they kept showing her. You know what I'm saying? In the chair or whatever. And then they also showed Barack Obama. They showed Bill and Hillary, and then I think they showed Dick Cheney, but barely, because they were sitting way over there by Bill Clinton and Hillary. But he looks really, really, really old now. If that was him, I think it was him. And so anyway, so I figured, yeah, that's probably the wife, because I know I saw glimpses long time ago when he was running for president and stuff. So anyway, so basically I had that, that image of her in my brain. So the alien copied off that. And basically, but in the scenario, it was not Cindy McCain. It was a woman. It was just an acquaintance that I had. And I went to visit her mansion. The alien did not tell me it was Cindy McCain. It was not Cindy McCain. It was just the alien copied, made a almost similar replica of Cindy McCain, and that was my acquaintance in the scenario. And she looked a lot like Cindy McCain, but it wasn't her. Okay, so like I say, the alien just basically copied that because I had it fresh in my brain, the image, or of Cindy McCain. Okay, so in this scenario, okay, they take me to another mansion again. Of course, they're always taking me to mansions. Okay, so I walked. Okay, so basically, I went to this woman's house. It's like she was my acquaintance. The alien didn't tell me why I went there. I was just visiting. That's all I was doing. I was visiting this acquaintance that happened to look like Cindy McCain in her mansion, and I was not crazy about her, and she wasn't crazy about me. We were just acquaintances. And so anyway, so I was walking around, for like hours and hours and hours and hours, and I was looking at things like how lavish things were. And everything was really, really, really lavish. And I walked through I walked from an upstairs to a downstairs, and then a downstairs to an upstairs a couple times. It was a huge mansion. It was, 20 times bigger than this piece of shit right here. 20 times bigger than that. And so I was walking around for hours and hours and hours and hours. And so I was walking around, and I saw the owner, which was the Cindy McCain lookalike, my acquaintance that I went to visit. I saw her walking around, just doing her thing or whatever. And like I say, for whatever reason, I was just there to visit. The alien didn't, give me specifics why I was there. But it was just like, as if she was an acquaintance. Okay, so after I started observing things, I was observing how luxurious things were and stuff like that. This other woman pops into the scene, and the alien copied a coworker off of her, I believe, because she kind of looked like her. kind of longish brown hair. And so anyway, this woman pops up in my scene. I mean, she appears in the scene, and it was basically at that point it was just me, and then this, you know, my acquaintance, which looked like Cindy McCain, and then the long brown-headed woman. Okay, now I forgot to tell you, the brown-headed woman was basically a worker. She was like, what do you call it? A maid. Not a maid, but like a housekeeper. Yeah, she popped up in the scene because she was a housekeeper. I was not a housekeeper, like I say. I was just an acquaintance that was visiting her in the mansion. And okay, so yeah, so she popped up in the scene, and we were walking around together. And like I say, she was a housekeeper. And I don't know how long she was supposed to come in and stay there and clean the house or whatever, but she was the housekeeper. And so then we started walking around together. And, you know, a few times I would glance over and I would see, you know, my acquaintance that looks like her walking around. Cindy McCain, that looked like Cindy McCain walking around. And then I started talking to when we started walking around, I started talking to the maid or the housekeeper. And I was like, wow, why does this leather chair, it's like really gross looking and ugly and, you know, worn out looking and stuff. And she was just like, oh, well, you know, those are like really old antiques, so she just wanted to keep them. So that made total sense to me. But anyway, everything else was like totally luxurious and lavish and everything, except for like 2 to 3 sofa seats that were just really disgusting, like old looking suede, which is kind of like leather. And I was just like, I was like, these are kind of nasty looking. But the maid, the housekeeper, was telling me, we were both talking and just kind of agreeing, like, oh, okay, yeah, that's probably because she just happened to keep them because they're very, very antique-ish. So she didn't want to like throw them away. My acquaintance, my friend that I was visiting, which happened to look like Cindy McCain. Okay, now here comes the disturbing part. And I put a chandelier in there. And then there was the dining room table, very small dining room table, or the breakfast table. I put the chandelier in there because that was the end of the scenario. Okay, but anyway, so here comes like the disturbing part. Okay, so me and the housekeepers walking around, and then all of a sudden we somehow I walk up to the front entrance. I don't know if it was the front door, but it was like, or the front entrance necessarily, but it was an entrance door to the mansion. And as far as I remember, I think the housekeeper was standing there with me. I can't remember. But anyway, so at some point I was standing there at the front entrance, or an entrance of the mansion. And this man, that's why I put him in here. I just happened to put a cartoon figure instead of like a man. But a janitor, or like a maintenance man, came barging through the front door. It's like, he didn't even knock. He came barging through the front door. And I was just kind of like, okay, that's kind of weird. And he gives me like a bad vibe. I was feeling all that in this experience. When he came barging in, he mumbled. He was like, I'm a maintenance man. I have a right to be here. And you could tell he was like, I knew he was up to no good. But he mumbled that when he walked right through the front door, or the entrance. He mumbled. He just barged right through the front door. And he was like, mumble, I belong here. I'm the maintenance man. I have the right to come in here. And he looked about, the Cindy McCain lookalike, my acquaintance, she looked about, like 65. The maintenance, the housekeeper, she was probably about my age. And the janitor, he was probably about my age as well. Me and the housekeeper, we were all about the same age. And so after he came barging in, like I say, I was just kind of like, okay, wow. And as far as I remember, I remember thinking, I wondered what the housekeeper was going to say about it. But as far as I remember, I can't remember if she said anything about it or not. But when I saw him barge in like that, and after he mumbled that, I was thinking in my head, like, wow, like, he does not give me a very good vibe at all. Like, I know he's up to something, And the alien took all these bits and pieces from my head, from movies that I've seen and crap like that, and then they just make a scenario for me. So anyway, what the deal was, the acquaintance. Now, the alien didn't tell me this, but this was what it was like in the experience. It was like as if the acquaintance was into BDSM sex. And I think the alien took that from my brain too, because from some things that I was watching on YouTube. He took that from my brain and put that in the scenario. Okay, so basically, okay, here comes the disturbing part. So after he starts barging through the door, okay, and at that point, a few minutes later, I'm standing there it's like we're standing there near some sofas and everything, and me and the housekeeper are standing there, and we're just kind of looking around. And over to my left, off at her bedroom, Cindy McCain's bedroom. It wasn't Cindy McCain, but you know what I mean. Okay, the bedroom, I hear these like horrid screams, like just horrid, like moans and screams. And they were kind of horrid, you know what I mean? I don't know how the aliens do it, but they make things so, like, realistic. So I hear these horrid dreams, horrid screams and horrid moans. And I was just thinking in my head, like, I don't know what the housekeeper was thinking, but I was just thinking in my head, like, that it was an actual murder, that he actually killed her. That's what I was thinking in my head. And, okay, so anyway, that's what I was thinking because it sounded like horrid. But basically it was just BDSM sex. Okay, so then, a few minutes, go along, and, a few minutes after I hear the horrid screams and the horrid moans, all of a sudden, I see my acquaintance, the 65-year-old, walking around. And I see, okay, well, this is kind of horrid too. But, so I see her walking around. And she was just kind of like, la, 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 la. And, like she was okay and everything. But I see, there was some blood on her forehead. And I looked down at a butter knife. The aliens copied that too, because I have a lot of butter knives and stuff, and so they happened to copy the butter knife instead of one of the more sharper knives from my brain. But because I use butter knives and stuff to cut the bananas and stuff, so the alien copied that from my brain. But I looked, okay, after I hear the screams and the moans and stuff, I look down and I see blood all over a butter knife. And then I see her walking around, Cindy McCain, the Cindy McCain lookalike, walking around, and I see some, splattered blood on the left top of her forehead. And but she was walking around like la 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 la, like I'm fine. So basically, it was, I don't know, it was just kind of horrid. It was just a BDSM thing, and she was fine and everything. And like I say, I know the aliens copied that from my brain from some of the stuff that I had been listening to on YouTube. And something about, somebody posted the Scorpion guy, a band member or whatever. He said he went to like a snuff party and shit. And so I know the alien copied all that from my brain and made this scenario. And so anyway, yeah, who knows if that's all true. I'm sure it is, but anyway, I found another video where that scorpion guy, he said that TMZ took everything out of context and blah 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 blah, which that's probably true. But he didn't seem like a bad guy or whatever, but he was probably just curious, you know, that he was invited to this party. And he said, it's like, what the fuck did he see, man? Because he said that he opened up a room and he just said he wanted to, you know, throw up or whatever. It's like, there's some sick motherfuckers in this world. Okay, but, I mean, because, I mean, it must have been some bad shit for him to say that he opened up a door and he saw, you know, like he wanted to throw up. But anyway, I just think those people, they're just nasty skanks, scum of the earth. I don't believe they're aliens. I don't believe they're hybrids. They're just nasty skanks, scum of the earth. But people always act like it's reptilians or whatever. Well, I don't really believe that. I just think it's scum humans. But yeah, did the aliens create them? If the aliens created them to be scum humans and to be like that, then still it's kind of like it's the aliens, you know, fault. You know what I'm saying? But they created this whole virtual reality dimension anyway. 3D or whatever. Okay, so anyway, so I know the aliens took that from my brain. Okay, so anyway, there was blood. I looked down and I saw blood all over the butter knife. And then there was some speckled, you know, blood, fresh blood on her top left forehead. Middle to the top left, going over to the top left of the forehead. And she was walking around and she was just like, la, 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 la. And so she was fine. She was good. You know what I mean? He didn't, he wasn't trying to kill her or anything. They were just into BDSM sex. Okay, so anyway, okay, so here comes the last, so like I said, she was fine. Okay, so the last part of the scenario, me and the housekeeper walk upstairs, and it's time for me to go to bed. And this was like, I mean, lavish bedroom, lavish comforter and everything. And so I laid down to go to bed, and apparently, like, I was hot. It was stuffy, and I was hot. And I was, you know, I wasn't asleep yet, but I was laying there in the bed. And then my acquaintance comes up there, you know, the 65-year-old woman. She starts looking at me with the housekeeper, and I'm thinking in my head, like, man, it's hot in here. You know, I'm stuffy, I'm hot. And somehow, oh no, actually, maybe I actually said it to her. Well, I don't know, I can't remember. But anyway, I knew I was hot and I was stuffy, and the acquaintance, she thought that I was already asleep because I was thinking that in my head, like, it's hot and it's stuffy, and she thought I was already asleep, and the housekeeper the housekeeper knew I was still awake, but the acquaintance thought I was already asleep, and she's like, oh, because acquaintance, like I said, I wasn't crazy about her, and she wasn't crazy about me. For whatever reason, she was just an acquaintance, and I was visiting with her at the mansion. And so anyway, the 65-year-old, the Cindy McCain lookalike, my acquaintance, she was mumbling to the housekeeper. She was like, oh yeah, I think the housekeeper was telling her, oh, I think she's hot. I could tell that she's hot. And she needs some more, you know, she needs a fan or something. She needs some more air conditioning or something. And that's when Cindy McCain, she thought I was asleep, but I wasn't. And the Cindy McCain lookalike, she's like, oh, just here, take a fan and just put a fan on her. And, you know, like, she was being very, not very concerned about my needs, because, you know, if it's hot and stuffy, you know, a fan doesn't work. You still need air conditioning, or I do. But, you know, she was just being kind of rude and not being very concerned about my needs. She was like, oh, just stick a fan on her. And I just remember thinking, okay, fan's not going to be good enough. But anyway, apparently she didn't have the air conditioner on, at least in that bedroom that I was about to sleep in. Okay, now here's, like I say, I'm getting to the last part of the scenario, which is nothing, you know, big or anything. But anyway, when I was about to lay down in the bed, I lifted up the comforter and the sheets and everything. There seemed to be about five comforter, sheets, blankets. There seemed to be about 5 layers. I lifted it up, and there was like a big, oblong period stain on the bed. And I know the aliens copied that from my reality. And I looked at it, and I mean, you could tell it had been there like a long time, or at least, several days. And when it stays that long, you're not going to get that stain out. And anyway, and I remember like the housekeeper, she was just kind of like, well, I guess she was just lazy and didn't feel like changing the sheets. But the whole bedroom, was immaculate. The comforter and everything else was immaculate. She just didn't feel like changing the sheets. And the housekeeper, like I say, the housekeeper, I guess, was supposed to be changing the sheets, but she made reference to the fact that, she was trying to tell me that, that my acquaintance can be lazy sometimes and just didn't feel like changing the sheet or whatever. But anyway, that part was kind of funny. Okay, so then the end of the scenario, we're back. I'm standing there back downstairs. We were on the ground level and like upstairs on the 2nd or 3rd level. But like I say, this mansion was freaking 20 stories high, 20 times bigger than this mansion right there, and the template. But anyway, okay. So the last part of the scenario, we were back downstairs. Oh yeah, well that makes sense because, the alien made me think that I went to bed and everything. And then I got up the next morning and I was standing there, on the 1st level near the kitchen. And I can't remember if the housekeeper was standing there with me or not, but I was standing there. And so the last part of the scenario, I look over to my right, and there's a small little, off to the side of the kitchen, a small little dining room with a small breakfast table. And there was a chandelier. I saw the chandelier and everything, and it was like beautiful and everything. And then I saw the back of my acquaintance, a 65-year-old. I saw the back of her legs and everything. And now throughout the whole scenario, the acquaintance seemed like she was probably at least 5'4", at least 5'4". Okay, but at the last part of the scenario, when I looked off at the breakfast table and the small little area of the breakfast table and the dining room, which was basically, it was a small little dining room with one breakfast table, and then there's a chandelier above, and it was all immaculate and beautiful and everything, and lavish and everything. Okay, this is just the funny part, because when she turned her head, the Cindy McCain lookalike, she turned her head, and I saw the backs of her legs. And at that point, she seemed like she was like 4'10", and she had these skinny little legs. Like tiny little skinny legs. And anyway, so that was the end of the scenario after I looked at her and saw her tiny little legs. And she seemed to be about 4'10" at that point. And I saw the back of her hair and everything, and her hair was, very, like I say, her whole appearance and everything was very similar to Cindy McCain. And so that part was kind of funny. And she seemed very, at that point, she seemed very jolly and everything, very normal and jolly. Except, there was just that one disturbing scene in it. But, and I know, some people can say, oh, that could have been really, an alien, at that point when I saw the skinny little legs and everything, that really could have been an alien or whatever. But I don't really look at, I don't look at it like that. But, it could have, I don't look at it like that, because the aliens can do anything. They can put, an image of, they can mess with your mind in any way, shape, or form or whatever. So I don't really look at it like that. But I know sometimes, it was just a replica, totally real person that they created for me for the scenario, and they made her look like Cindy McCain. Okay, but anyway, but I know sometimes they will give you these lucid dreams and virtual reality experiences, out-of-body experiences. They will give you all those experiences, and the aliens are actually doing something else. They're giving you all, a lot of these experiences, a lot of my experiences, they're giving them to me, and they're actually doing something else, but not all the time. you know, they're tampering with me at my bedside or doing something, because I've caught them doing that before. I've actually caught them in the act of doing that. Like when they gave me those back-to-back 4 awesome virtual reality out-of-body experiences, I talked about all of those too. They gave me like 4 of them, bam, 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 all the way from 7. I had went to bed early that night, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning. They had given me 4 of them. This was like back in 2013. And at least the very last experience, when they made me go up and touch the black-eyed adult's left, I grabbed her with my left, I touched her wrist or whatever with my left arm. And that's when I woke up in my bed, and the alien, like the gray alien, was hovering over me, and he like took a blood draw from me, and that was like all physical. And that did freak me out. And it actually hurt for a little while, for about 10 minutes, and I saw the vein popping up and down. I mean, they can do anything like totally invisibly. They could chop your head off if they really wanted to. You know, they could take your blood, physical blood or whatever. But yeah, they're amazing, what they could do. But anyway, so those are all my 3 lucid virtual reality out-of-body experience dreams. Well, like I say, this was lucid dreamy, but it was still out-of-body experiences, and it was still virtual reality. It was just an OBE-VR Lucid dream. But yeah, I have that video where I talked about all the differences. Thanks for listening.